Pray for us, Holy Mother of God.
That we may be worthy of the promises of Christ.
Let us pray. O God,
whose only begotten Son, by his life, death, and resurrection, has purchased for us the rewards of eternal life, grant, we beseech thee, that meditating upon these mysteries of the most holy rosary of the Blessed Virgin Mary, we may imitate what they contain, and obtain the living promise, through the same Christ our Lord. Amen.
may the divine assistance remain always with us.
And may the souls of faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Next time on EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, your 2024 election preview. We show you where abortion could be on the ballot this year. Plus, how the pro-life movement needs to expand to win hearts, minds, and elections to save vulnerable children in the womb. That's next time on EWTN Pro-Life Weekly tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Hello and welcome to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm your host, Prudence Robertson. Life on the ballot. In 2024, there are high stakes at the ballot box when it comes to defending unborn lives. Since the overturn of Roe v. Wade, pro-abortion activists around the country have been working to undo decades' worth of state-level pro-life laws. And soon, over a dozen states could have mini Roes added to their constitution. We cover the latest. Shifting strategies. Some say that for pro-life gains to be made in today's cultural climate, the strategy needs to change. I'm joined by Matt Salisbury of Pesh Strategy, who weighs in on the recent pro-life loss in Ohio and shares his take on how pro-abortion activists succeeded in selling their pitch even to conservative voters. Which states are the most pro-life? Tom Shakely of Americans United for Life joins us with a report on which states have the strongest policies to protect babies in the womb. Despite political turmoil, lawmakers in some states are still using their power to protect the most vulnerable. As many of you know, the fall of Roe v. Wade back in 2022 returned the power to the states to legislate on abortion. And as it stands, the nation is decidedly split when it comes to the right to life for babies in the womb. Many predicted after Roe's fall that about half of states would enact strong laws stopping abortion, and the other half would work to cement Roe-like policies in their state laws. And that prediction came true, but what many didn't see coming is how the question of abortion came up in state-level elections across the country. This due to pro-abortion activists introducing measures to fast-track radical pro-abortion policies that alter state constitutions. Together with our sister publication, the Catholic News Agency, the Pro-Life Weekly team has created a map tracking the damage that's been done via pro-abortion ballot proposals and what's still yet to come. We'll be updating this map in real time throughout the year. Here's the breakdown. The dark pink shows where we have already seen pro-life losses at the ballot box: California, Kansas, Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, and Vermont. The light pink shows where abortion could be on the ballot this year. As of right now, Nevada, Arizona, Colorado, South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, Pennsylvania, and Florida. The bright orange is where we know abortion is already on the ballot in New York and Maryland. And on a bright note, the green shows 2 states where the right to life is protected by their constitutions: Tennessee and Alabama. Clicking on each state will give you more details about what's happening there. For example, in Florida, you'll see that the required signatures have already been collected to add the pro-abortion proposal to the ballot. But in this particular state, the measure is currently being held up by the conservative state Supreme Court. And speaking of Florida, Montse Alvarado, president and COO of EWTN News, recently sat down with Florida Governor and presidential hopeful Ron DeSantis, who has worked to advance laws protecting the unborn in his state.
The heartbeat bill that was done provides, more robust protections and will end up saving a lot of lives. How that factors in politically, I think on issues that are fundamental, why are you in office? Are you in office to put your finger in the wind and try to contort yourself into a pretzel? Or are you in office to be able to stand up for things that you believe in?
You can catch Montse's full interview with Ron DeSantis on our EWTN YouTube page. And joining us now to discuss the impact of abortion on the political realm this coming year is Mary Margaret Olahan. She is senior reporter at the Daily Signal. Mary Margaret, thanks for joining me. Let's first focus on Florida. We just highlighted that they could see abortion on their ballot this year if the state Supreme Court doesn't step in a decisive way. What are you hearing from the Sunshine State and how abortion is pertaining to the elections there?
Well, I'm hearing across the board that pro-lifers are very concerned about these ballot measures. I mean, when Roe v. Wade was overturned, this was such a gigantic win for the pro-life movement, right? But now that we are seeing these ballot measures, it's this easy way for radical leftists or far-left interest groups to insert themselves in a state and try and take over and change that state's abortion laws to basically enshrine abortion into the state constitutions. And that's unfortunately what we're seeing pro-abortion radicals trying to do in Florida, where Governor DeSantis just signed a 6-week abortion ban or protections for the unborn. And that should show us, Prudence, just how scary this is for those trying to protect the unborn, because if this could happen in Florida, it could happen in any state across the country.
Right. And we also just heard from presidential candidate Ron DeSantis. Can you speak to how these ballot proposals popping up across the country is going to continue to impact the field of presidential candidates and how they campaign on this?
Well, they're going to have to address them, and we don't hear them talking about the ballot proposals very much.
Yeah.
As you know, Prudence, this is a tricky subject for the 2024 candidates. They know, and they're being told by Republican consultants to stay away from abortion. Unfortunately, that's what Republican consultants have been saying for a long time. But if we look at the last election results and we look at who made a clear stand and explained where they stood on abortion, showed where their opponents stood on abortion, and contrasted the two positions, the Republicans who did this effectively won, like Governor DeSantis in Florida. The Republicans who were afraid to do this and they put their head in the sand, like Dr. Oz in Pennsylvania, they lost. And so this is something that Republicans are going to have to come to terms with. Are they willing to be confident and to say, yes, I support protections for the unborn, here's how. And by the way, my opponent won't even tell you if he would protect babies up until the moment of birth. that's a huge issue. And frankly, if you can't say that, if you can't contrast Democratic extremism to pretty reasonable, practical Republican solutions to protecting life, then maybe you shouldn't be on the presidential stage.
Right, right. And it's one thing to talk about how these candidates are messaging, but when it comes to the question of abortion right on the ballot, protecting life hasn't necessarily been a winning issue in terms of these ballot proposals. 7 states now, we've seen losses. Why do you think that is?
Well, partially because the people on the ground in these states, you'll see these pro-life groups that put so much time and effort into protecting or trying to fight back against these ballot measures.
Right.
But then in Ohio, for example, you had celebrities like Barack Obama and John Legend, I believe, weighing in favor of the pro-abortion ballot measures. And meanwhile, the Republicans had J.D. Vance and the governor, who is not very conservative at the end of the day, but Republicans were able to gather support from him. Those are really the only people that came out to help Ohio. And these are big deal ballot measures, and if Republicans aren't willing to pay attention to them, we're going to lose all over the country.
Yeah, it's the messengers and the money that are really key here.
Absolutely.
Mary Margaret, you travel the country reporting on stories that matter not just on the abortion front, but the fight to protect families more broadly. What else are you tracking and hearing in these first days of the new year?
Well, we're keeping an eye on different cases all across the country that involve parents not being told about their children in relation to gender ideology. All across the country, we're hearing about schools transitioning children without the parents' consent, such as socially transitioning a child and calling them different pronouns and a different name at school without telling the parents. In early December, my colleague Tim Kennedy and I traveled to Denver to interview Joe and Serena Wales, parents of a little girl, an 11-year-old, who was on an overnight school trip and was told that she had to share a bed with a boy who identifies as a girl. And she did not know that this boy was, in fact, a boy until they were in their hotel room and he told her that.
Oh my gosh.
So this is a wild story. We sat down with the Wales. You can see it at dailysignal.com. But parents they're not going to accept this lying down. They're willing to fight for their children, and we've seen that in recent years with the way that American parents are standing up and telling school districts, no, we are in charge and you do not get the final say over our children. So those are some stories that I'm very invested in right now. We'll be tracking those at Daily Signal and excited to see what we can uncover.
Great. Well, the stories that you do uncover on that issue are always so eye-opening and important. Thanks for the work that you do. Mary Margaret Olahan of the Daily Signal.
Thank you.
Ohio was the most recent state in which one of these pro-abortion initiatives was successful. Issue 1 opens the door for abortion on demand through birth in Ohio and could even take parents out of the conversation when it comes to minors obtaining an abortion or even invasive surgeries that are meant to change a child's biological sex. Joining me now to shed light on what happened in Ohio is Matt Salisbury, managing partner and director of digital at Pesh Strategy. Matt, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me. Your team worked in the final weeks leading up to the vote in Ohio to try and get the pro-life message out. Give me your take on why the message of pro-abortion activists actually won out in the end.
Prudence, thanks so much. It's tremendous to be here with you. As you mentioned, we were involved in the endgame there in Ohio, specifically to work with the Physicians Coalition that was working hard on the pro-life side. We were unfortunately unsuccessful. I think the pro-abortion side, the abortion movement in general, has been very successful because they've been able to medicalize their position. They've been able to put a white coat on the abortion industry. It's worked with voters. We've seen that over and over again. They've got good messaging. They've got the right spokespeople. They've got at least the perception that they've got grassroots support, and they've got a lot of money, and they're being very, they're being tremendously successful with that.
Right, doubling down on that talking point that abortion is health care. It's very troubling. Moving forward, Matt, what do pro-lifers in these states need to do better? What needs to change?
It's a great question. First of all, we need to accept the fact that the other side's been winning. I think it was Julius Caesar that said that experience is the teacher of all things. Well, we definitely have a lot of experience now losing. We've lost 7 straight states. And it really matters more than any other political ballot measure or campaign because lives are at stake here.
Right.
We really need to get back into the driver's seat. The other side, they've got a two-track message that's really resonated. The first is this idea of freedom, getting government out of the exam room. Molly Ball unpacked this in the Wall Street Journal recently, did a really, really good job kind of explaining how the other side was able to co-opt our own message and use it against us in a red state. The second track is protection from harm, protecting women and girls especially from harm. We know this is absurd. Every time an abortion is performed, one of the patients dies, and the other patient is usually scarred for life or for a significant amount of time. We also know that 93% of OBGYNs don't even perform abortions. So the idea that this is essential women's health care is absurd. That being said, this dual message of protection from harm and freedom, keeping government out of the exam room, it's really worked for them. So we need to push back. We've got our own doctors. They're tremendous. There are thousands of them, fired up pro-life medical professionals. We need to use them more effectively and earlier on and not bring them in last minute.
Yeah, really well put. Great analysis. And Matt, how does the national conversation around abortion impact these state level elections? You know, are the broad implications of these abortion questions on the ballot really grasped by normal people around the nation?
I don't think they are. Again, there's been this real almost insidious ability by the abortion industry to, in particular, focus on harm and protection from harm. Talking about ectopic pregnancies, 1 in 50 pregnancies is an ectopic. Talking about the, very young girl who's a rape victim tragically and then becomes pregnant. Talking about the late stage miscarriages. We need to do a better job of telling voters and Americans in general that medical care is not impacted in a negative way by the pro-life movement, right? If it were, then Catholic hospitals wouldn't have been providing good medical care for the last 50 years since Roe. It's just not true. It's a lie. But again, the other side's done a tremendous job dressing itself up in a white coat, pretending they care about women and girls. It's a lie.
Yeah. And how do we use the political sphere moving forward, Matt, to influence the culture conversation and save babies in the womb? And not only these children, but also young women and girls who are contemplating ending these precious lives?
It's a great question. I think this idea of a whole life ethic where we really start to focus not just on the moment of decision around abortion, but actually looking at how we care for women and girls and families that may be struggling. Oftentimes these are fraught choices, and this is not made lightly by people. So really walking with them, accompanying them, I think the Catholic Church in particular does a really good job with that. That's the first thing. On the political front, fighting back, right? As I said, there are thousands and thousands of pro-life medical professionals in this country. APLOG, the American Association of Pro-Life OBGYNs, is the leading membership association of pro-life medical professionals. They do tremendous work year-round, and not just in political contexts. There's a lot of good physicians and medical professionals at work every day taking care of their patients, following Hippocratic medicine and the principles of Hippocratic medicine. I think it could also be very helpful if people would talk to their own medical professional, right? Your doctor, the nurse who's taking care of you. It's important that, the people who provide our care share our values and share our perception of human life and the sacredness and dignity of human life. So I think that conversation is one that's an easy place to start.
Absolutely. Well, very insightful conversation. Matt Salisbury of PESH Strategy, thanks for joining me. God bless.
Thanks, Prudence.
Coming up, Pope Francis speaks out against what he calls the exploitative industry of child surrogacy. Hear what he had to say. Plus, a new report from Americans United for Life ranks states by their pro-life laws, or lack thereof. Tom Shakely joins us next.
Hello, family. As Catholics, we know that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And when truth is challenged, we're called to be strong and to bring light to a world that can be dark. At EWTN, we are with you in this spiritual battle, and we want to thank you for making our work possible. Today, we hope you'll make a gift to EWTN. Your donation will help people around the world discover the gospel message through the daily Mass with the Franciscan Missionaries of the Eternal Word, inspirational programs like At Home with Jim and Joy, and news from a Catholic perspective. With your gift, you'll help us continue Mother Angelica's great work of evangelization, and you'll also help us share the truth with a world in need. May God bless you.
EWTN is 100% viewer supported. Your gift today keeps EWTN on the air and shares the joy of the gospel with the world. Please make a gift by going to EWTN.com/mystory. On this page, you can also tell us the ways the Lord has impacted your life through EWTN. And new this year, you can record a video testimonial. You may also make a donation by calling us at 1-800-447-EWTN or send your donation to EWTN, 5817 Old Leeds Road, Irondale, Alabama, 35210.
Hello, Journey Home family. Next time, we'll welcome Michael Mason, a former evangelical Protestant, to share what led him home to the Catholic Church. Share the journey next time on EWTN's The Journey Home.
You're watching EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Prudence Robertson. Welcome back to our program. And now your top headlines of the week. First up, Pope Francis strongly condemned surrogacy, which he called deplorable.
The path to peace calls for respect for life, for every human life, starting with the unborn child in the mother's womb, which cannot be suppressed or turned into an object of trafficking.
Pope Francis spoke on the topic during a gathering of the world's ambassadors to the Vatican on January 8th. He told the delegates that surrogacy is a grave violation of the dignity of both the woman and the child, and called on the international community to ban the practice. And back in the United States, a study found that more and more women who are not pregnant are stockpiling abortion pills just in case. After the Dobbs decision that overturned Roe v. Wade was leaked in 2022, requests for abortion pills from non-pregnant women spiked from 25 a day to nearly 250. This, according to data from Aid Access, a Netherlands-based nonprofit that is one of the leading providers of deadly chemical abortion pills here in the U.S. Doctors express concern that these just-in-case pills pose a dangerous health risk to women who may take the pills incorrectly and without any medical supervision. And at the Capitol, the Supreme Court is taking up another abortion case. The justices agreed to hear a challenge to Idaho's law that prohibits nearly all abortions. The challenge comes from the Biden administration, which alleges that Idaho is violating a federal law which allows ER doctors to perform abortions on a case-by-case basis. The High Court is set to hear arguments on the case in the spring and says Idaho's pro-life law can remain in place for now. This is the second high-profile case on abortion the Supreme Court is taking on this session. The first concerns the legality of dispensing the abortion drug mifepristone by mail. And a new report ranks all 50 states based on their efforts to protect unborn babies in 2023. The group Americans United for Life releases its Life List every year and scores states based on their pro-life protections from conception to natural death, including not just policies on abortion, but also assisted suicide and conscience rights for healthcare professionals. For the fourth year in a row, Arkansas topped the list thanks to the state's addition of 9 pro-life laws in 2023. Vermont is at the bottom of the list, and Michigan dropped 10 spots after voters approved a so-called right to abortion in their state's constitution in 2022. And joining us to discuss this new report is Tom Shakely. He is the Chief Engagement Officer of Americans United for Life. Tom, thanks for being with me. First, how does your team determine the rankings of each state on the Life List? What exactly are the criteria?
Yeah, so Prudence, our Life List at Americans United for Life is a long-running ranking of the states, as you mentioned, from most to least pro-life. The way the rankings work is that every year, the state legislatures, right, typically for most of them, it's kind of the January to April timeframe, meet. They pass laws. They consider laws first. They pass them, hopefully, if they're good. And then we kind of assess what the state of things is. And so in the last year's legislative sessions, for instance, we saw 59 at least that we know of pro-life bills across the states move forward. And we look at those bills and we look at the issues that they deal with, from most pro-life, all those 59 I mentioned, to a lot of other bills that are the opposite, anti-life, hostile to life, or at least indifferent. And then we say, how do these states rank across the spectrum of the human right to life? So abortion, certainly, but also all the other issues, obviously things like assisted suicide and euthanasia, but also things like patients' rights, conscience rights, conscience protections for healthcare workers, all those kinds of issues on the spectrum from conception through to natural death. We look at it holistically, and we try to assess how the states are doing, and that's what produces our life list rankings.
Yeah, it's an important resource. And Tom, what are the biggest takeaways from the report for this past year? Any big changes? Anything unexpected?
Yeah, it's a great question. Every year there are big changes. Obviously, now that we're in this post-Roe, post-Dobbs environment, states can do more than they were ever able to do under the Roe regime. The big takeaway is that, states are showing their character. Those who respect life are finding ways to protect it, new ways to protect it, better ways to protect it. And states that historically haven't respected life, you mentioned some of those states, unfortunately, at the bottom of the ranking, like Vermont, are finding, unfortunately, new ways to do damage to life, or simply to enshrine a culture of indifference, purported neutrality to life.
And can you detail some of these new laws enacted in Arkansas this year, which made the top of the list? It seems like a true model of what it means to be a pro-life state.
Yeah, Arkansas, has been a leader for a long time for us. The fourth year that Arkansas has topped the life list. And the reason for that is because of really strong pro-life lawmakers like Senator Jason Rapert and others in the state who are concerned not just with playing a defensive game, which is crucial, but also playing an offensive game, actually going out and proactively enshrining laws to protect life and to create new paradigms that other states can follow. And so Arkansas and some of the other states there in the top 5 are there not just because they've done good work in their states, passing 9 life-affirming bills in Arkansas alone, but also showing other states and some of those states that are kind of in the middle of the rankings, what sort of things they should be doing, what sort of protections might be needed. Think of something like the FACE Act, right, which has been used by the Biden administration, unfortunately, to go after pro-life advocates, sidewalk counselors, people who engage in peaceful direct action. States like Arkansas are passing bills to make sure that the sorts of pro-life witness and advocacy that we see that's good, that should be totally permissible within our constitutional system, within the understanding of free speech and public assembly and all those good things, they're making sure that states can protect that sort of activity as far as they can go without interference from the federal government.
Yeah, that's great. And unfortunately, Michigan is much lower on the list now than it used to be, thanks to the pro-abortion ballot proposal that was passed in 2022. It led to essentially the codification of very Roe-like laws in the state, that Roe regime being reinstated.
Yeah.
Do you think this is a developing trend in the states? I mean, there are rumors that a ballot proposal like this could pop up in Arkansas, the most pro-life state on your list. So what's your take on how that's going to impact these pro-life laws?
Yeah, no, you're right. And of course, states like Ohio, too, right, having unfortunately enshrined abortion through the ballot measure. Michigan and Ohio are unfortunate for that reason. And the truth is that, when we look at the number of states that allow for ballot initiatives for direct votes, direct democracy, majoritarian numbers to peel away basic human rights that our Constitution protects, that are right by nature, there are a number of states that remain. It's not that many states, but it's 7 or 8 that could still move to enshrine this fiction of a right to kill in their state constitutions. The unfortunate fact of it is that the amount of money that pro-abortion forces have to pour into these states to buy outcomes of the vote, unfortunately. I'm a good American. I'm an 8th-generation Pennsylvanian, a son of the Revolution. I love our way of life. I love our system. But the unfortunate fact is that in direct democracy scenarios like the ballot initiatives allow for, money often dictates the outcome. And the fact is that these groups, so long as they're permitted to flood a state with money from who knows where, certainly out of the state, but beyond that, even who knows where it's coming from, As long as they're permitted to do that, states are going to continue to fall. And it's very possible that we lose the remaining states that have those ballot mechanisms. Most states don't have it, fortunately. Most states allow state lawmakers to do what they're there to do, to be elected representatives for the good of the people. But that's going to be a continuing headwind for all of us to deal with. We shouldn't get discouraged by it necessarily, because we've always known that we need to fight in both the pro-life states we can fight in, while making moves on the national level to get to a point where we have true abolition of abortion, true equal protection for every member of the human family. Right. So it's always a both and. The states and the federal government, we need to continue to work in both arenas.
Absolutely. Well, Tom Shakely of Americans United for Life, thank you for joining me and for sharing all of that crucial information. We appreciate having you on, as always.
Thank you, Prudence.
That does it for this edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Prudence Robertson. Don't forget, you can find us at EWTN Pro-Life on all social media platforms, X, Facebook, Instagram, we're there. And if you're interested in more news from our nation and world, go to EWTN.com/pro-life and sign up for our newsletter, The Pro-Life Pulse. Remember, life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.
The register's content is so critically important in the society we're living in now because everything is so secularized. There's an absence of the practice of religion in public life. So all the more important is it for people to be reading the register so that they can acquire more understanding of our Catholic faith, so that they can be more and better influenced by the values of the gospel that affirm true human dignity in every stage of life, and how we can understand that the human person created in the image and likeness of God reveals the goodness, truth, and beauty of God in the world. I've appreciated the catechetical benefits of the content of the register. It presents very clear Catholic teaching in a way that is easily digestible.
To get half off your subscription, order online at ncregister.com/TV. or call 800-421-3230 and mention code TV. That's ncregister.com/TV or 800-421-3230 and mention code TV. Call or click today to save 50%. The National Catholic Register. Read faithfully.
If you really love Lourdes, then knowing Bernadette is the key to knowing Lourdes.
Lourdes is powerful. We see this when we serve there, the difference that a person, when they first arrive and how they leave.
I was convinced I was coming to Lourdes to help sick people and realized that, in fact, they helped me.
Bienvenue. Welcome to My Lourdes Faith Journey.
Here on the Global Catholic Network, EWTN.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
I'm Ryan Penny, and welcome to the Catholic Sphere. This week, we're bringing back our panel of priests who have taken to social media to evangelize. First, we have with us a familiar face, Father Leonard Mary, the Director of Communications for the Franciscan Friars of the Eternal Word. We also have back with us again today Father Rafael Capot. He is the Vice President for Mission and Ministry and the Dean of Theology at St. Thomas University in Florida. And we're also joined again by Father Jared Cook, a priest of the Diocese of Austin, Texas. We've discussed in previous episodes how social media is like a digital island that the church is looking to evangelize there as well. Father Leonard, how is what you're creating on the Friars' pages helping promote the digital Catholic island?
Well, we're out there, Ryan, keeping up with some of the trends as far as graphics and video. This comes across with the vlogs and the memes and all of that stuff, and the reels and things, and the little teaching videos, and also the Friars doing what they call remixing and going in movies and things like that. This is all coming out in Digital Island because there's people who come across it who are not Christian, or they say they haven't been in church for a while, and they see this, and well, here's a means where they can now reconnect with God and the church.
Right, exactly. We have a generation now that's absorbed in TikTok, and so sometimes, if you want to reach them, you're going to have to go there yourself.
That's right.
And obviously, it's effective. So, Father Capot, we agreed that ministry on social media as priests for you can kind of be hearkened to a kind of digital parish. So, can you tell us why do you think that that's the case?
Well, I love the image of digital parish in the sense that we're called to be present there for everyone, just as in a parish, the pastor has to reach out not just to the ones that are on the pews, but to everyone that lives in that parish territory. So by being priest present on social media, we're called to go out there. But I think there are other images that are also beautiful that we need to share, not just the digital island or the digital parish, but Pope Benedict called it the digital continent. And we're called to go out. The Great Commission is also to be present there on that continent. And Pope Francis has used the image of the digital highway. So we're called to, speed it up and go out with the joy of the gospel to be present there for everybody.
Yeah, the word that you kept on using there that sticks out to me is present. You're being present. If that's where everyone is, sometimes the only light of the gospel people are going to get is going to be a religious, a priest, and so to see you there can be incredibly encouraging to souls. And the response that they have to all of you is proof enough of that truth. So, Father Cook, why do you think it's important for priests to occupy this digital territory?
There's a wise CFR priest that once told me, and it stuck with me to this day, that the more priests we have out there on that digital highway, on that digital continent, the more Catholics we have out there, for that matter, the louder the message is going to be. And I think that we can all attest to the fact that there's so much noise out there that is totally just distracting and just engulfing us. And so to be able to poke through with the gospel, with the message of Jesus, it is definitely a bright light in a very dark highway. And so that's what we're called to do, and that's what I try to do. And so we do need more priests out there. We do need more Catholics out there, for that matter, spreading the good news, even if it's just sharing what the good news is doing for them.
Okay, so Father Leonard, say you scroll through the comments section and you see something like this. Classical Christianity and full-blown Catholicism in particular, especially, are outdated. It's backwards. It doesn't have anything of value to bring to people's lives today. How would you respond to that?
Well, there in Christianity, Catholicism, there is what is true, good, and beautiful. And being a Franciscan, we communicate the beauty of humanity, but the beauty of creation, and it brings about what is really truly beautiful about it and good about it. We are made in the image and likeness of God. He gives us dignity and intelligence and a will, all of these things which are necessary and which are damaged out in the world, and especially can be very destroyed in the digital world. So, Catholicism, Christianity is very relevant because there we're bringing God's message, we're bringing His love, His truth, we're bringing healing to a world that is, experienced the corruption of the media and of all the false messages out there.
Father Capot, have you had to deal with these kinds of negative comments? How do you respond to all of that on social media?
Yeah, absolutely. There's always haters and people that don't understand the message of the gospel or what you're sharing about your